6 years ago, a $39 flight popped up in my email. I booked it before I even had a chance to talk myself out of it. I didn't know it then, but that one trip was going to rewrite how I saw myself and how I traveled. So this is the story of my first solo trip and how I'm still chasing that feeling 6 years later. I'm a twin and my sister is my best friend. We do everything together, including travel. Now that doesn't mean I've never flown by myself or without her, but it was usually to meet someone at the destination. So I'd never taken a truly solo trip. And I think one of the reasons why is just relying on my twin as a crutch for a lot of things. While having a twin is so awesome, you have your built-in best friend. On the flip side, that a lot of people don't think about is that you kind of rely on another person when you may not be feeling as confident or as brave, or when you're feeling a little anxious. You have someone who can take over and take the lead in a situation, or someone to troubleshoot with. All of that just made going on a solo trip that much more anxiety ridden, just not having her by my side. And I know a lot of people who may not have a twin may still have that crutch of another sibling or their best friend. And I think that's why going on a solo trip can feel so scary, is when you rely on someone else, you're not really building that muscle of doing things on your own and feeling confident in your own capabilities. And then I think there's also just that lonely piece. You want to share the experience with someone else. But 6 years ago, I was going through a breakup and his birthday was coming up in a couple of months, and I wanted to get out of Nashville that weekend. I just did not want to be in the city. I don't know if he celebrated his birthday in Nashville that weekend or not, but I just didn't want to be in the city that weekend. And my sister could not travel that weekend for other obligations. And so I was already starting to grapple with the idea of taking a solo trip that weekend. And then I got an email alert from Going. So I had signed up for Going's email subscription service where they send you flight alerts of cheap flights and mistake fares, and they had sent me a flight alert from Nashville to Savannah for $39 one way, so $80 round trip. That's another thing with traveling solo that I think stops people, is just the cost. You are able to split costs of a trip when you're traveling with someone else, and that makes traveling a little bit more affordable. But when you're traveling solo, all of those costs fall on you. So having a flight deal that cheap already takes that price barrier down a notch, where it made it feasible. For an $80 round trip ticket, that already made room in my budget for not being able to share a hotel and split the cost with someone else, made that more feasible. And I was able to find hotel prices at an affordable cost and plan some activities. There was a lot of things in the historic downtown of Savannah that were all within walking distance, so I wasn't going to worry about renting a car or spending money in the transportation. Really just an Uber from the airport to my hotel, and that was about it. So this was shaping up to be kind of an affordable weekend getaway. I could get out of the state, really, and do some exploring and not have to have any of those memories of my ex looming around. I chose to stay at a hotel over an Airbnb just because it was my first solo trip. I wanted to add some layers of safety and precaution, and a hotel just provides a few more layers of protection with having a front desk and staff in case anything goes wrong or you need help. You have staff on site to help. I feel like also having other guests stay there helps not feel as lonely, but has that layer of protection that there's just other people who could potentially witness or just be around, and that's helpful in itself. And just also the hotel being in the historic downtown on a main road in a very public setting felt like that gave it some protection compared to an Airbnb that didn't have any staff on site, that was away from downtown, maybe more isolated and secluded. Even though the entire time in Savannah I felt completely safe as a solo female walking around day or night, for my first trip, did not want to be in an Airbnb, even though the hotel I chose turned out to be one of the most haunted hotels in the state of Georgia. Now, I love scary things. Doing ghost tours in every city that I travel to is one of my favorite activities, but I did not put everything together that this trip was literally going to be scaring the sadness of my breakup out of me. So I did a ghost tour, which was so much fun. That was actually one of my favorite ghost tours that I've done in any city. I met some really cool people on that tour. Our tour guide told some really amazing stories and just was a really good storyteller. I love doing ghost tours. I don't know if I truly believe in ghosts or paranormal activity, but I love doing ghost tours because it's a great way to see a new place. They're usually walking tours, and you also get to learn history, but that history is coupled with some fun, unique twists of stories, learning how someone may have passed and why they may still haunt that location. But it wasn't until that ghost tour ended. It ended at one of the cemeteries at about 10 o'clock at night. So I was walking back from the ghost tour to my hotel, 10 o'clock at night. It was dark out, walking from a cemetery. Luckily, it was only a couple blocks away, but it was still that eerie feeling of walking from a cemetery, hearing all those stories, and then walking to supposedly one of the most haunted hotels. Now, during the day, the hotel was normal. It's a very beautiful hotel. The staff was so nice and friendly, and I just enjoyed the hotel during the day. But it wasn't until walking back to the hotel after that ghost tour that I'm like, maybe this wasn't such a good idea. I fell asleep shortly after I got back to my hotel, but then was abruptly awoken by what felt like screaming in my ear. I woke up and there was no one around, but it felt so real, like I could feel someone's breath on my face from them screaming. There were some other things that were weird, and so I did not get very much sleep that night, really the whole weekend. But during the day, like I said, totally fine, didn't feel anything out of the ordinary. So I want to go back to that hotel and stay there, but with someone else, to see if what I experienced at that hotel was truly paranormal activity, or was it just my imagination from the events prior and then coupled with just the thought or knowing that it is a haunted hotel. But overall, I enjoyed my weekend in Savannah. I think that is just the perfect place to do a solo trip. I had planned not only the ghost tour, I toured a couple of the historic homes, which I love touring historic homes, and even eating out at the restaurants did not feel as lonely. Every restaurant that I ate at in Savannah, the server always made conversation and made me feel so welcome. So that helped so much, because I know just the thought of going to a restaurant by yourself can be intimidating in and of itself. You just have that fear of like, oh, everyone's judging at me eating alone and no one's here with me. It really wasn't that bad, especially with the servers that I had that joked around, gave me more tips on places that they recommend to eat, and activities that they love doing. So it was definitely a great way to socialize. So I think overall, choosing Savannah as my first solo destination, I think really spoiled me. It was such a top tier destination. The downtown was so walkable. I felt so safe, great food. There was shopping, lots of activities. Because it's such a historical city, I feel like there's just so many activities. Ghost tours, other walking history tours, historic homes, and lots of things to learn and do that I just think it was a really amazing experience. And it also helped me grow as a person. Looking back on that weekend, so much changed for me. It's kind of crazy, which it's not like I don't live alone. I've lived by myself for a number of years, but I think there's just something different from living alone versus traveling by yourself to a completely new city, state, destination, and navigating that by yourself. In your home and in your town, you have your routine, you have a general sense of where everything is. There's not a lot of newness that you have to overcome versus traveling by yourself to a new destination. You have to go through the airport and navigate that by yourself, transportation in that destination and how to get around, not knowing where anything is, and being so far from home and being so far from your comforts and your routine. All of that compounds together to make solo travel seem daunting. But doing this weekend trip, especially at kind of what I feel like a low stakes destination like Savannah, really helped me get over that block, that mental block of traveling solo. I had such a great weekend and learned so much, and that gave me the confidence to want to travel solo even more. So since then, I've traveled to New York by myself, to other cities, states, and then it just started growing from there, and I pushed myself further and further that I went to Europe by myself. There was an opportunity for a group travel trip that started Rome to Barcelona that another YouTuber that I follow was hosting a couple years back that I really wanted to do, and I could not find anyone to go with me. So I took the leap and flew to Rome by myself and joined that group trip and ended up meeting someone who has now become one of my closest friends, Alyssa. If you've seen her on other videos, she's been on my channel before. Her and I have become such good friends, and we have taken so many more trips together. So just by pushing myself out of my comfort zone and taking my first solo trip, I have now met new people and expanded my social circle and the things that I can do and my friends. It's really changed the trajectory of my life. I've even started this YouTube channel because I wanted to document everything that I'm learning, document my travels and share them with you so that we can grow together on the things that I'm learning, and you guys can make comments in the comments and tell me when there's things that you've learned that I can learn from them. So there's just so much that one trip has given me that I didn't even imagine, because I was so focused in the moment of going through a breakup, in my sadness. You know, when you're going through a breakup and it just feels like your world's crashing down, you cannot see anything outside your little tunnel vision and your bubble and your own emotions. And so it's like looking back on it 6 years later, and it's just amazing how much has changed and where my life has taken me because of that situation, and for the better too. So that is why I wanted to share my story of why I really valued that first solo trip, and I want to encourage others to travel solo or to take a trip or to get outside of their comfort zone, because you never know where these trips are going to lead you, because you may be caught up in your own tunnel vision and your own emotions, that taking a chance, taking a risk can completely change your life for the better. So that is my story on my first solo trip. Leave a comment below telling me, have you taken a solo trip? Where was your first solo trip and what did you learn? Was there anything crazy happening? Did you stay in a haunted hotel on your first solo trip? Or does that sound like something only I made a mistake on doing? Do I recommend it? I don't know. I think depends. Depends on how you feel about ghost stories. It was fun, and it's a story that I'm telling 6 years later because it was very interesting. Let me know in the comments on where you want to travel solo, where you have traveled solo, and I'll see you in the next video. Ciao for now.